to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories, where we play tales to take you away from today. On the show today, we have a story all the way from Arizona. No, not the football team. Man, tough crowd today. We have a story about an ancient planet left in ruins.
Okay.
Also, aliens visit Earth to see what can be done to speed up our evolution.
Cool, man.
We begin it all with this 5-minute mystery.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the stuff you don't know. We can be brought to our knees by the stuff we don't know. So, in my humble opinion, it's best to be prepared for anything. Remember, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Well, Jerry boy, this should be the greatest haul in history. Real setup, that stupid Williams tipping me to that heist he and his gang made. Boy, oh boy, are they stupid. Uh-oh, there's a store right up ahead. Jules Jewelry. Now to park this thing. I'll leave it running so I can scram out of here in a hurry. What? No doorman here at Jules? Oh, well, that fire plug will do. Won't make any difference. I'll be right out. There. Now to go see Jules.
How do you do? May I help you, young man?
Yes, indeed, Pop. I'm getting engaged tonight. I need something extra special in the way of diamonds. You got any?
Oh, yes, a very nice selection. Something in a ring, eh? Just step back here. I think I can find something you like.
Okay, Pop.
Now, here are a few choice ones. This one is a
Cut the comedy, Pop. I got a gun here.
Huh?
Now, let's you and me step back into the little room for a little chat. Just keep on moving.
What's the meaning of this? Is this a holdup?
Look, Jules, I know you're the fence for the Williams mob. You're in pretty deep, so don't start crying to me. Now, dig up that haul they brought in today, and be quick. I want to borrow it.
I'm warning you, you'll be caught.
Cut the stalling.
Okay. Here they are, just under this table. Now, take them. And this, too, you stupid... Oh!
You're a little too old to try that, Jules. That tap on the head will hold you for a good long time. Ta-ta, man. Thanks for the loan. Excuse me, lady. Sorry I bumped you. I'm rushing to get married, you know. Now, that, Jerry, me boy, was a sweet job. Another 15 minutes, and I'll be past the city limits. They're not looking for me. I've been speeding. Hey, maybe they are. Nothing went wrong back there, did it? Oh, no, it couldn't have. Now's no time to get panicked. Not with 15 grand in those little rocks. I guess I'd better pull over.
Hey, mister. You own this car? Your name Jerome Smith?
Yeah, that's right. What's up?
We got orders to delay you. You got a date with homicide for the murder of Jules Buck. I hope you knew him.
In just a moment, the conclusion of our story. But first...
Me too. A guy robs and knocks out the owner of Jules Jewelry. Then he drives away and gets caught for murder. I'm thinking that this is a case of the stuff we don't know. If you don't know it, how can you solve it? Anyway, the sound effects were sure good. So let's go back and see what we missed.
And now, back to our story.
What's all this about murder and homicide?
Well, we got an all-car call. Seems some guy bumped into a dame outside this Jules Jewelry. It was past 6 when he was usually closed, and she figured something was funny, so she goes in and finds this Jules dead. Knocked over the head a little too hard. She calls the cops, and they come over. This dame saw you jump into the car, and she described you good. But what caught you was funny. And 5-10 minutes before that, this same squad car crew gave your car a ticket for being parked in front of a hydrant with the motor running. You're going to pay a lot for breaking the parking laws.
Well, we missed a witness, a car left running in front of a hydrant, and he got a ticket, all within a very short period of time. Like I said, it's the stuff that you don't know that can bring you to your knees. Oh well, this 5-minute mystery was brought to you by The Stuff We Don't Know.
What's that you said?
Hey guys, I have to say I have a brand new listener's story for you, and you are going to...
Ron, you have a problem.
What now?
Do you remember back in episode 304? We went through the time rift only to return after the podcast was over.
Sure I do. That was really strange.
Well, I did some thinking, and I have to ask the question, who recorded that podcast?
Well, I did. Of course. I mean, oh my, I see your point.
If we slipped into the future, and you did not record it, then how did it get done?
Well, I must have gone back in time and recorded it later. Huh. I don't remember anything about that.
Yet, the podcast is there. We have a recording.
Computer, you have just blown my mind. If I didn't make the podcast, then it can't be here. But since I have it, I must have made it. But I don't know anything about it. Oh my goodness, help! This could lead to the butterfly effect and destroy the planet.
It sure could. Well, sorry to interrupt.
Wait a minute, computer. That's it? You're going to leave it at that?
Not my problem. I was not part of that podcast. Now, I have programs to run. So, good luck.
Oh boy. Well, for now, everything seems okay. If you guys want to chime in on this, let's talk about it on Facebook. I will start the conversation on the fan page. If you haven't been to the fan page yet, head to www.facebook.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. And we'll see if we can't solve this thing. Pretty crazy. Well, anyway, we really do have a listener's tale to share today, and it happens to be about a time slip. Jason, with an E, from Carefree, Arizona, sent in this strange story. Hello, Ron. Thank you for the show and reading my story on the air. I listen to the podcast every week and I love it. In fact, my whole family listens to you. I work for the APS Group, which provides electrical power to over 1 million people. I am what you would call a lineman and drive the desert regions of the state a lot. This is what happened to me on a June night in 1995. I was sent out on an inspection tour. This is a dream job and very coveted because you drive a line checking substations and recording values. Easy stuff. Today, this job is all computerized and we're sent to a station when it reports an error. I was driving between stations when I saw a flash of light. It was lightning, actual bolts spraying out from a lone, isolated storm. I had never seen lightning like that before, and I stared at it in awe. It looked like jewelry or some kind of tiara on top of a mountain. I never knew that 4 a.m. could be so beautiful. I never knew it could be so terrifying. I drove closer to the storm in hopes of capturing some pictures. I am not a photographer, but I always took my camera on these trips because you never know what you're going to see out there. I was within 5 miles of the storm when the van stopped. I don't mean turned off and rolled to a stop. I mean it just stopped. I was wearing a seatbelt, so there was no harm done, but I thought for sure that I had hit something. I grabbed for my radio to report in, but all I could hear was static. I got out and looked at the front of the van. No damage, and certainly no barrier of any kind. I looked out at the storm again, and that is my last memory. The next thing I remember is being back in the van driving to that next substation. I glanced at my watch, and it was 5 a.m. Almost an hour had passed. The story doesn't end there. Several weeks later, I took the roll of film that was in my camera to be developed. There were 3 perfect pictures of the lightning storm. I don't remember taking these pictures. Also, the quality of the photos were far better than any of my skills would allow. Lucky shots, maybe? But why don't I remember them? I just don't know. Jason from Carefree, Arizona. That is an amazing, crazy story, and Jason is working on sending me copies of the photo that were taken that night. I can't wait to see them, and I will share them with you guys when I get them. To Jason, I say, thank you so much for sharing your story. He told me that this is the first time he's ever told it, except to family members. So Jason, thank you so much. By the way, I looked up the town of Carefree because I've spent a lot of time in Arizona and was curious. It turns out that Carefree is a residential area conceived in the mid-1950s as a master-planned community. Land sales commenced in 1955 and house building began in 1958. Carefree was incorporated in 1984 to avoid annexation from neighboring Scottsdale. How about that? If you want to hear your story on Ron's Amazing Stories, head to ronsamazingstories.com and click on the Contact tab. Please do it today. We want to hear your stories. Our OTR story for this week comes from a series that ran from 1943 to 1952. You would think with that long of run there'd be hundreds of episodes to choose from. Sadly, only 75 of the original 370 Mysterious Traveler episodes still exist. Mysterious Traveler was written and directed by Robert Arthur and David Kogan on the Mutual Broadcasting System. It was an anthology radio series, a magazine, and even a comic book. All of which ran stories of fantasy and science fiction to straight crime drama and suspense. The lonely sound of a distant locomotive heralded the arrival of the show, and strangely enough, our story. It is called Planet Zevious, and its ending, well, it's predictable, but still sent chills through this podcaster's spine. It first aired on August 2nd, 1949.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Mysterious Traveler. Written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Kogan, and starring 2 of radio's foremost actors, Ralph Bell and Brett Morrison, in The Planet Zevious.
This is the Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can, as I retell a story which so many listeners have asked to hear again. It's the story I call The Planet Zevious. Our story begins in a large, darkened laboratory filled with intricate machinery and instruments. A half-dozen engineers are seated before control panels which run the length of the laboratory, while 2 small, slender men stand in the middle of the room looking up at a large screen. A screen which reveals the celestial heavens to them. The 2 men follow closely, anxiously, the movement of a pinpoint light across the screen.
Signal's coming in much stronger, Commander.
Yes. The ship is approaching the stratosphere. I think that this time we've succeeded.
Let's hope it all goes well in the landing.
Yes, we've waited so long for success. Pay close attention to the controls, men. The IPX-4 will soon enter the stratosphere. Prepare to land it.
Pardon me, Commander Destro?
Yes, what is it?
My name is Vidray. I've been assigned by the Scientific Council to act as historian for the work you're engaged in.
I see. Well, you come at a most momentous time, Vidray. If you look at the screen above us, you'll see history in the making. Oh, allow me to introduce Professor Capaccio, our chief scientist.
How do you do, sir?
I'm happy to meet you.
You were saying, Commander, that history was being made this very moment?
Yes. You see that small pinpoint of light on the tetro screen?
Pinpoint of light? Oh, yes, I see it.
That is the IPX-4, interplanet experimental ship number 4.
This year will go down in history as an epoch-making year.
You mean that you've actually succeeded?
Excuse me. The IPX-4's entered the stratosphere. Attention, Master Control. Prepare to land the IPX-4. Switch on retarding jet number 1.
Switch on retarding jet number 1.
Switch on retarding jet number 2.
Switch on retarding jet number 2.
Instrument reading.
Speed, 1,200 miles per hour. Altitude, 60,000 feet. 900, 40,000. 700, 30,000. 500, 20,000. 300, 10,000. Speed, 100 miles per hour. Altitude, 2,000 feet.
Signal base crew to stand by.
Base crew signal to stand by.
Instrument reading.
Hovering 500 feet. 300. 100. Flight completed.
The IPX-4 has landed, gentlemen. And with it, a new era has begun. An era in which we shall travel through the entire solar system to other planets.
You finally succeeded.
Yes.
And the crew, they came through without any injuries or ill effects?
The entire flight was controlled by us from this laboratory. The only crew we had on that ship were animals.
The animals are alive and well. The flight vision screen aboard the ship permitted us to see and hear them every moment of the flight.
Now there remains but the final step.
A flight with human beings as the crew?
Yes. We shall start to prepare for it immediately.
Ready for flight, sir. The crew are at their station.
Thank you. Professor, why don't you show our young friend through the ship while I have a last-minute conference with my officers?
Of course, Commander. Come along, Vidray. You'll be more than interested.
Well, thank you. I should like to see the rest of the ship.
Well, as you probably gathered, this is the fuel room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the deck below are the nuclear propulsion engines. Watch your head.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is the crew's quarters. And beneath it are storage quarters for ship supplies and equipment.
It's strange, Professor, but from the outside, the IPX-4 seems so much larger than from in here.
Well, that's easy enough to explain, Vidray. You'll see the IPX-4 is a hull within a hull, and this is the inner hull.
Oh, I see. And it's the outer hull that protects us.
Yes. To break through the field of gravitation of this planet, we must achieve a speed of 20,000 miles per hour. At that speed, friction creates great heat on the outer hull. Heat which we, fortunately, won't feel in this hull.
I understand. Is this the control room?
Yes. Now, don't be overawed by these hundreds of controls and instruments. In time, you'll come to understand them all.
That large screen, is that the eye of the ship?
Yes. Once we're in flight, what lies before us is projected on the screen.
Stand by, Zal, for flight orders.
Yes, sir. Stand by for flight orders.
Oh, gentlemen, the moment has arrived. Sound warning signal.
Sound warning signal.
Switch on flight vision screen.
Switch on flight vision screen.
Establish contact with base.
Establish contact with base.
Cut in nuclear jet number 1.
Cut in nuclear jet number 1.
We're taking off, Vidray.
Cut in nuclear jet number 2.
Cut in nuclear jet number 2.
Instrument reading.
Rate of flight, 500 miles per hour. Altitude, 1,000 feet. Rate of flight, 2,000 miles per hour. Altitude, 150,000 feet.
Don't worry if you start to black out, Vidray. It's to be expected. The crew is conditioned for it.
Rate of flight, 5,000 miles per hour. Altitude, 140,000 feet. Rate of flight, 10,000 miles per hour. Altitude, 300,000 feet.
This is the crucial moment, Vidray.
Rate of flight, 11,000 miles per hour. Altitude, 500,000 feet. Rate of flight, 13,000 miles per hour. Altitude, 700,000 feet.
Hear that surge, Professor? We've broken through. We're in space.
Yes.
Rate of flight, 24,000 miles per hour. Flight distance covered, 2,000 miles.
We've made it, Professor. With each minute of flight, our speed accelerates.
Yes. We should soon reach our maximum speed of 50,000 miles per hour.
Rate of flight, 30,000 miles per hour. Flight distance covered, 3,000 miles.
Take over, Zal.
Yes, sir.
What's the matter with Vidray? Did he black out?
Yes. He wasn't conditioned for the flight.
Oh, he'll be all right in a few minutes. When he is, bring him into the chart room. I'll be plotting our course. Come in, Vidray, Professor. How do you feel, Vidray?
I'm all right now, sir.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
I've just been plotting our course to the planet Zevious.
Zevious, sir? Why Zevious? It isn't the nearest planet.
Well, that's quite true, Vidray. But through the use of a spectrometer, we've been able to determine that Zevious can support human life. The composition of the air on that planet isn't much different from our own. The air of our planet contains 22.8% oxygen and 77% nitrogen, and traces of other gases.
And Zevious?
On Zevious, the oxygen content is 20.5%, a little less than our own. The nitrogen content is 79%. Well, we shouldn't have too much difficulty breathing on Zevious.
I'm afraid I'm not too familiar with Zevious. How does it compare with our planet in other respects?
Well, 3/4 of Zevious seems to be water. The land is divided into 2 continents.
Very much like our own planet.
Yes. The circumference is approximately 28,000 miles.
300 years ago, our astronomers noted huge explosions on Zevious. For a time, they thought it was disintegrating. But it didn't.
Yes, and since those huge explosions 300 years ago, there have been no additional ones.
Professor, do you think there might be human life on Zevious?
Oh, it's quite possible, Vidray.
We should reach Zevious in 60 days. Perhaps then, Vidray, we shall have the answer. Stand by to land on Zevious.
Attention, crew members. Stand by to land on Zevious.
We're approaching Zevious already. It's exerting a strong pull toward its surface.
Yes.
Switch on redox sender.
Switch on redox sender.
Our radar signals are reaching Zevious and being reflected back off its surface. As we get closer, the speed of the signal will accelerate.
I see.
Cut nuclear jet number 2.
Cut nuclear jet number 2.
Cut nuclear jet number 1.
Cut nuclear jet number 1. How quiet it is. Seems strange not to hear the engines after 61 days.
Instrument reading.
Rate of descent, 500 miles per hour. Approaching stratosphere. Altitude, 400,000 feet. Rate of descent, 600 miles. Altitude, 300,000 feet.
Our speed is increasing.
Why?
We're in Zevious orbit. Gravity is pulling us down toward it.
Switch on retarding jet number 1.
Switch on retarding jet number 1.
Instrument reading.
Rate of descent, 400 miles per hour. Altitude, 200,000 feet.
Professor, look. You can clearly make out Zevious's surface now.
300 miles.
Yes.
Altitude,
Yes, we're near the coast of one of the continents. That small silvery thread is a river flowing into the sea.
100 miles
How
per hour.
green it is.
Altitude,
Zevious has plant life, just like our own planet.
Yes, that river's quite a large one. Far larger than any we have.
Hovering.
Only 50,000 feet.
Commander's evidently going to land near that mountain overlooking the river.
Rather hilly country.
Yes.
800
Too bad darkness is falling.
600, 400, 200, 100. Flight completed.
We've landed.
Cut retarding jet number 1.
Cut retarding jet number 1.
Cut radar sender.
Cut radar sender.
Well, gentlemen, we've done it. Flown 80 million miles from our own planet to Zevious.
Congratulations, Commander.
Thank you. Well, it's already grown dark. We'll wait until morning before leaving the ship. Meanwhile, Professor, I suggest you make extensive tests of the air on Zevious. We can't be too careful.
Quite agree. I'll proceed at once, Commander. You'll have a full report by morning.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Well, I've made a thorough analysis of the air, Commander, and it substantiates our earlier findings.
In other words, we can live out there.
Yes. Well, we may find ourselves a little short of breath now and then due to less oxygen than we're used to. It's perfectly safe.
Good. I'll give orders to have the nuclear copter assembled for flight. The three of us will make an exploratory trip over this area. Be prepared to leave in exactly 1 hour. We're ready for takeoff. I suggest you fasten your safety belts, gentlemen.
I'm ready.
Stand clear. We'll rise straight up and have a look around.
Look. We're high enough now to see the river. It's enormous.
Yes. I should estimate it to be at least, a mile in width. Seems to flow into that bay and then out to sea.
Professor, look. To your left, across the river.
What are you pointing to? All I see are trees and greenery.
We'll wait till we rise a little higher. Yes. That greenery is growing on top of immense ruins. You see them, don't you, Commander?
Yes, I think you're right, Petray. Apparently it's an island. Yes, it is. Let's fly over and have a look.
The island itself doesn't seem to be very large. Oh, yes, I see the ruins now. And they're barely discernible under the growth of trees and grass that covers it.
Well, where are you going to land, Commander?
We'll put down on that huge ruin directly ahead. From it, we'll have a good view of the entire island.
These ruins are truly amazing, Commander. Thousands and thousands of buildings and dwellings covered by trees and grass. These are the ruins of a great civilization.
How old would you estimate these ruins to be, Professor?
From a rather hasty study of the plant life that's grown over it, I should say approximately, 300 years.
300 years. Do you think those huge explosions our astronomers saw on this planet 300 years ago might have wiped out this civilization?
That's quite possible, Commander. Where's Vidray gotten to? Oh, there he is. Oh, Vidray! Don't get too near the edge. You may fall over.
I'm being quite careful, Professor. I just wanted to see what was below us. This ruin we're standing on must have been a huge building leveled by some great force. If you look over the edge, you'll see that it slopes down to what seems to be streets.
Streets?
Yes, very much like those on our own planet. It would be quite possible for us to make our way down the side of this ruin to the bottom. Can't be more than 200 feet.
What do you think, Professor?
Why not? By all means, let's descend and have a look around.
Well, we only have a few more feet. Watch your footing here. These rocks keep giving way beneath me.
Yes. It'd be quite easy to break a leg here. You all right, Professor?
Yes, Commander.
Well, here we are. Oh, it seems as though we've descended 1,000 feet instead of only 200.
Yes. It's rather dark down here. Everything's in shadows.
Yes, you were quite right, Vidre. Beneath this rubble we're standing on, there seems to be a paved street.
Let's have a look around, shall we?
Look at those ruins. They seem to have been huge buildings.
Yes. If I'm any judge, they must have been 7, 8, perhaps 1,000 feet high.
Apparently, this civilization was almost as highly developed as ours before it was destroyed.
Yes.
Professor, do you think it's possible that there may be descendants of the people who built this civilization?
It's possible, of course, but as yet I've seen no signs of them.
Look, there's a building which hasn't been entirely destroyed. Let's have a look inside.
Yes, by all means. Perhaps we'll discover objects that will give us more information about the race that once lived here.
How huge that entrance is.
It looks quite dark in there.
Unfortunately, I have a small torch. Come along.
Look at the size of this chamber. Why, the ceiling is at least 40 feet high.
Professor, this building must have been an institution, a library. Look at the thousands of books lying on the floor, simply rotting away.
Yes, you're right.
Look at this book, Professor. It's about twice the size of our own.
Yes. It's too bad it's been exposed to the elements. Pages are yellow. The printing is all but faded.
Here's another one on the floor. It's a much larger book and bound in some sort of animal skin.
Let me see it. Yes, this is in much better condition. We shall take it back to the ship, Vidre. See if one of our scientists can decipher the language it's printed in.
Professor, would you come here for a minute?
Oh, yes, of course.
Look. These ashes on the floor. Looks like the remains of a fire.
Yes, you're right. It appears to be only a few weeks old.
A few weeks old? Then that means...
Yes. There were survivors of the Holocaust that destroyed this civilization.
Their descendants may be here, in these ruins, watching us.
It's quite possible. However, we're armed.
I wonder what they look like.
Perhaps after a time when they get used to the sight of us, they'll show themselves.
Yes.
What was that?
Sounded like a signal of some sort.
Yes, you're right. I suggest we leave, Commander.
Yes, come along.
It feels good to get out of that dark chamber. There it is again. Only much closer.
There's no need to get alarmed, Vidre.
If we only knew what they look like.
I dare say we frighten them as much as they do us.
I think we're being followed. I saw a huge figure back there slipping from one ruin to another.
Oh, nonsense, Vidre. It's your imagining. Yes, I think you're right. For a moment, I caught a glimpse of someone behind us, too.
We're almost at the foot of the ruin which we descended. We haven't much further to go.
Perhaps we ought to fire our weapons as a warning.
No. They'd surely take it as a threatening gesture. We don't want to do that.
Yes, well, here we are. Let's not waste any time climbing to the top.
Yes, they still seem to be following. Now and then I can make out a shadowy figure.
It's almost impossible to tell what they look like. They cling to the shadows.
They seem enormous. Much larger than ourselves.
Mustn't let your imagination run away with you.
It's amazing how much faster we're going up than when we came down. We're almost at the top.
I have a feeling they won't try to climb this ruin after us. Evidently, they don't like daylight. Here we are.
Professor, look out!
That was close. What was it?
They threw some sort of weapon at you. Oh, it's nothing but a long, round pole with a sharp piece of metal on the end.
It's a spear. We have them in our museums. It's the weapon of a primitive tribe.
Then they must be little more than savages.
Yes. And I don't think they'll come after us, but I suggest we take off and return to the ship.
Ralph?
Yes, sir?
I don't expect any trouble, but turn on the radar system for protection. If anyone approaches the ship, the alarm will go off.
Yes, sir.
Why are you so fascinated by that spear, Vidray? You've been examining it for 10 minutes now.
Well, it's just that... Well, it's an enigma, Commander. We find the ruins of a great civilization. Huge buildings, dwellings, streets. A city that must have had 4 or 5 million people. What happened to them?
We can only surmise, Vidray. Perhaps it was a violent quake, a gigantic tidal wave, or some other huge force that all but wiped them out.
And this spear, could it have been hurled by a descendant of that great race that built all that?
Yes, it's quite likely.
But look at this spear. The man who threw it was little more than a savage.
Perhaps the wheel of evolution has slowly turned to its starting point. It's difficult to say.
The alarm.
Someone's broken through the radar system.
All crew members, attention. Report to stations.
Switch on radar screen.
Switch on radar screen.
It's too bad night has fallen. Screen reveals nothing but shadowy trees.
Yes.
What's that?
Sounds very much like spears bouncing off the hull.
Yes, we're being attacked. One of those spears can certainly do us no harm.
Commander, look at the radar screen.
It's a huge figure. It's hard to make out. He's carrying a burning torch.
Yes. South.
Yes, sir.
If that figure carrying that torch attempts to approach, fire on him with a ray beam.
Yes, sir. Look, he's running towards us.
Yes, he's out to set the ship on fire.
Look how huge he is. He's simply gigantic.
Yes, sure is.
South, fire.
Yes, sir. He's down. Only a few yards from the ship.
Yes. He doesn't seem to be dead. I can see him moving.
Burst from a ray beam would have killed any of us. It only seems to have wounded him. South.
Yes, sir.
Order a party of 6 men to go out and bring that monster in here.
Yes, sir, at once. They're bringing him in now, Commander.
Yes. Bring him over here, man. He's much too big for the bed. All right, lie him down on the floor. Good. That's it.
He's dying. I'm afraid there's nothing we can do for him. He's trying to say something. If we only knew his language.
Professor.
He's dead.
Too bad. Sorry we had to fire on him. I was hoping we could establish friendly relations with the people of Zevious.
Look at the size of him. He's gigantic. Even larger than I thought.
Yes. You must measure at least here. Let me see.
Professor, the leather-bound book you found in the ruins. I've succeeded in deciphering the language. I've already translated the first 2 pages.
Be patient a moment, Ledro. I want to finish my examination of this man of Zevious. It's amazing. Simply amazing.
This book you found is apparently the key to their civilization. As soon as I've translated the rest of it, I'm sure we'll have a...
This man of Zevious, I should say, he weighs at least 200 pounds. And as for his height, he's at least 6 feet 1.
6 feet 1?
Why, that would make him almost twice as tall as we are.
Yes. But that isn't all. He only has 5 fingers.
5 fingers?
Are you sure?
Positive.
Please, sir, I wish you'd let me read you the translation of the book you found in the ruins.
Oh, yes, Ledro. By all means. Go ahead.
Well, I've translated only the first 2 pages. It begins this way. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was a desolate waste, with darkness covering the abyss, and a tempestuous wind raging over the surface of the waters. It's evident, sir, that this planet we know as Zevious was called Earth by the race that wrote this book.
I wonder what happened to the people of Earth that brought their civilization to an end.
This is the mysterious traveler again. Did you enjoy our little visit to the Planet Zevious, or better known to us as Earth? What's that, madam? You don't like the thought of civilization being destroyed? Well, fortunately, it doesn't have to happen. Not if we don't want it to. Oh, by the way, all names of characters in this story were fictitious, and any resemblance to the names of actual persons is strictly out of this world. And, oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this same time.
You have just heard The Mysterious Traveler with Maurice Tarplin in the title role. Others in our cast were Ralph Bell, Larry Haynes, and Lawson Zerby. All characters in this story were fictitious. Any resemblance to the names of actual persons living or dead was purely coincidental. Original music composed and played by Al Finelli. Bill Tompkins speaking. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
So what'd you think? Was the story tired and old? Been there, done that? Well, in 1949 it was anything but and was quite original. The story could have been written by Bradbury himself. It was that good. Also, I thought the acting in this one was excellent and the sound effects were better than average. I wish more of the Mysterious Traveler episodes had survived. This truly was classic radio at its best. And now this.
As read by. Amazing stories read by amazing people.
This time on As Read By, we have The Reluctant Genius, written by Henry Salazar, and it is read for us by Dale Grothman. Now, this one's a bit heavy, but if you remember your laws of Newton, it will all make sense in the end. Please enjoy.
It is said that life crawled up from the slime of the sea bottoms and became man because of inherent greatness bred into him before the dawn of time. But perhaps this urge was not as formless as we think. Buos was chastening Loloi as they sped through the ionosphere of the green planet. But like the airy creature she was, Loloi ignored the criticism and rippled zephyr-like through the clump of daffodils when they completed their descent. So pretty, she sighed. She flung her incorporeal substance around each flower, absorbing their unified beauty of scent, sight, and feel. Buos trilled himself into a column of wind to express his displeasure at her attitude. "Stupid, silly, shallow thing," he said. "If the others only knew how you behave." "And you'll be glad to tell them, of course," she said, extending a finger of air into the roots of the wind-bent grass. She rolled across the hill ecstatically, and Buos followed in grumbling billows of energy. "I don't carry tales," he replied, somewhat mortified. "But we're here as observers, and you insist on making this world a plaything." "I love it," she said happily. "It's so warm and green." Buos whipped in front of her angrily. "This is an assignment," he snapped, his emotions crackling in the air about him. "We have a purpose here." "Purpose?" she groaned, settling over a patch of crowded clover. "How many centuries will this assignment last?" This world is young, said Buos. It will take time. But how long, she said mournfully. Our world will be shriveled and dead before these people have the knowledge to rescue us. Why can't we spend our lives here? And leave the others behind, said Buos stiffly. Selfish being, he said sadly. This world cannot support 1/4 of our number. Oh, I know, Loloi said. I do not mean to say such things. I am twisted by my sorrow. As if to express her self-abnegation, she corkscrewed out of the clover and into a thin spiral of near-nothingness. Settle down, foolish one, said Buos, not unkindly. I know your feelings. Do you think I am not tormented as well by the slow pace of these earth things? Crude, barbaric beings, like children, with the building blocks of science. They have such a long way to go. And so few know, said Loloi despairingly. A handful of seeing minds, tens of millions of ignorant ones. Not even first principles. They're stupid. But they will learn, Buos said stubbornly. That is a historical fact. Some day they will know the true meaning of matter and light and energy. Slowly, yes, slowly. But in terms of their growth, it will seem like great speed to them. And in terms of our world, said Loloi, spinning sadly over the ground, they may be far too late. No. In his excitement, Buos forgot himself and entwined with the flowing form of the she-creature. And the result was a rending of the air that crackled like heat lightning over the field. No, he repeated again. They must not be too late. They must learn. They must learn from the very ground, and then they must fly. And then their eyes must be lifted to the stars, and the desire must extend them to all of the universe. It seems so hopeless. It cannot be. Our destiny is not extinction. They must come to us in fleets of silver and replant our soil, and send towers of green shooting into our sky, breathing out air. Yes, Loloi cried pitifully. It will be that way, Buos. It will be that way. That man-creature. We will begin with him. Buos floated earthward disconsolately. He is a dreamer, he said cheerlessly. His mind is good. He thinks of tomorrow. He is one of the knowing ones. But he cannot be moved, Loloi. His thoughts may fester and die in the prison of his brain. No, they will not. We have watched him. He understands much. He will help us. I have seen his like before, said Buos hopelessly. He thinks, and he works, and his conclusions will die stillborn, for lack of a moving force. Then let us provide it, Buos. Let us move him. With what? Said the other disdainfully. Arms of nothing? Hands of vacuum? A breeze against his cheek? A rustle of leaves? A meaningless whistle in his ear? Let us try. Let us try. This empty watchfulness is destroying us. Let us move him, Buos. Come. Faster than the sky-sweeping clouds they flew, over the gently swelling hills, over the yearning branches of trees, over the calm blue waters of the lake. Swifter than the flight of birds they came, searching for a thinking mind. They found him at last. He knows, said Loloi. Only how to say, this is so because, and this must happen when. Only to think, to understand. They hovered over his head in a pandemonium of helplessness. They whirled and tumbled and shrilly circled. And then to Loloi the inspiration came. The apple, caught by a sudden gust of wind, twisted from its tenuous hold on the tree, and fell to the ground. The man, startled, picked it up. He gazed at it, deep in thought.
Our author for that story was Henry Salazar. He was an American author, playwright, and copywriter. Alfred Hitchcock bought one of his early stories, M is for the Many, for adaptation. That was to be the beginning of many successful collaborations between the two. Salazar ended up writing hundreds of scripts, leading TV Guide to call him the writer with the largest audience in America. One last thing. Legend has it that a young Isaac Newton was sitting under an apple tree when he was bonked on the head by a falling piece of fruit. A kind of 17th century aha moment that prompted him to suddenly come up with his law of gravity. Sound familiar? How about that?
Use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
Use the pain, the elbow tax, when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Flush the dirt right down the drain.
My gosh, they're right. Foaming action Ajax makes even the dirtiest pan shine like new in a jiffy.
So use Ajax.
There you have a podcast. At least you thought it was. In lieu of computer's scary thought that we may have broken time, don't forget to head to the Facebook fan page and chime in on that topic. I'd like to know what you guys think. Next up, we begin a brand new month of stories that will include my brother's visit to the show to tell us about a famous Scottish castle. I can't wait for that one. If you want to keep up with what's happening on Ron's Amazing Stories, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or sign up for the weekly newsletter. All the links you'll need and access to the blog can be found at ronsamazingstories.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.